Welcome to the PTA Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, John Caligiuri. I'm accompanied by a very special guest, Julian. Julian, how you doing this evening?
Very good, very good. Thank you, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. So for the people out there, can you just give us your backstory, who you are, where you're from?
Sure. So my name's Julian Ibanez. I'm from New Jersey. I live in Morris County, born and raised in New Jersey. Come from a household of five sisters and a single mom. Interesting growing up, unfortunately, my father passed when I was 3 years old. So that left me for an interesting upbringing that I think really kind of triggered my interest to kind of learn about financial literacy and become financially independent and all of that good stuff. I went to Montclair State for undergrad in MIS, Management Information Systems. Also have a master's degree from Stevens Institute of Technology. First person to graduate college in my entire family. Um, you know, love doing real estate. I work in IT full time. So does my wife. We both save up our money and we invest in real estate. We've done some flips and we have a few rentals, and that's we just continue to do that on the side. So pretty busy lives. We've got two young boys, that are both into soccer. Running around playing soccer, doing all that good stuff, working, juggling a career, and just trying to really continue to build our financial freedom, if you will, through the real estate side hustle that we're doing.
Well, that is a very impressive background. Were you growing up? Were you always interested in the IT field, or is it something that you kind of like worked your way into? Because I'm assuming you got into IT before you got into real estate.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, interestingly, growing up, I wasn't really into IT, or I was more of an outdoors guy. I love just being outdoors. But, due to necessity, I looked for, at the time when I was, selecting a career, I looked at which career was going to get me the most return for my time. So I decided at the time, or mid 90s, I graduated high school, went to college, and picked IT because I had seen like some of my older friends that were graduating, and these guys were coming out of school making really good money, living this crazy, nice 20 something comfortable life. And that kind of inspired me to think, all right, well, it's really time and money. So how do I not have to spend so much time to make as much as they were making? So that's part of what drove me was the time, the money, and also, so that was kind of the necessity piece of it. I would say really and it's interesting now that I've been in it for so long. What I've learned to appreciate is really the problem solving side of things. Once you kind of get to a certain point, it's not really about the money. You got to make sure that you're really doing what you want to do and enjoy. And it's really, for me, it's problem solving, helping people, working together, collaborating, and really, for the company that I work for now is really helping improve the financial lives of others. So I feel like my core values are aligned with the company that I'm at. The IT work that I'm doing protects people's wealth, and it's just been a good, interesting ride.
I love to hear that. What was kind of the breaking point for you of like for you to get into real estate? What was kind of the things that happened in your life? Like, okay, this is a path I want to go down because especially I know the IT career field is a lucrative one. So what was kind of for me when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was 22 years old. I'm like, I need to buy a house as quickly as possible. So that was like kind of my breaking point. What was the breaking point
Mhm.
for you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So growing up, so my father passed away when I was 3 years old. Unfortunately, he did not have life insurance and all that stuff and his paperwork in order. So that turned into a big mess. We were forced to leave our home, and we were not necessarily homeless, but we ended up moving in, squeezing into a small apartment. So, here we were, small apartment. It was a humble, I'll say humble beginnings, if you will. Um, and I just remember, like, as a kid, thinking to myself, wow, my mom's working all the time. And here I am pretty much just running around, just trying to just keep out of trouble, make sure I'm doing my schoolwork and, just hanging out and paying, my mom's coming home to pay the landlord. And I just thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice to be the guy that's getting the check that she's working her butt off for to keep us in, shelter? And it was just like it was just this, like, as a kid, it hurt me that she worked so much and she had to give her money to just keep us in a place. And I just remember thinking like, wow, as a kid, like I would like to be that guy one day that is actually not necessarily taking someone's hard earned money, but the guy that's getting the check instead of the person that's having to work so hard to pay for it, if you will. Um, yeah, and I hope that doesn't come off wrong, but it was just like this, I guess the suffering, if you will.
Yeah, that's very
Um,
inclusive of you.
Yep. Yeah. So that was part of it. And then the other part was, so growing up, no one in my family owned anything. Like we all lived in apartments. I was the first person to go to college. I was kind of the one that was kind of breaking the barrier, if you will, and achieving and chasing the American dream. So, at 26 years old, I finally decided that I saved up enough money. I had a good enough job. I bought my first house, 26 years old, single family, 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, bi-level in a beautiful part of New Jersey. It was a nice, to me, it was a huge victory. I was like, yes, I made it. And then that's when I started to realize, oh, credit, that's when I knew credit was really important. So then I said, okay, let me use this credit. Unfortunately, in my 20s, what I ended up doing was I used my credit to get into debt, right? So I bought this $320,000 house at the time. I then had a mortgage. I think it was like $2,200 for the mortgage on that house at the time. Then I was like, oh, I'm going to go buy a car. I bought a car. I had another $400 payment on top of that, plus another insurance. All of a sudden, and all this money I thought I was making, I realized, oh crap, I'm actually spending it on stuff. And it was very interesting having that moment of clarity at like 29, where I realized, holy cow, I may have overdone it. I have great credit, but I'm in debt. I had a great 700 credit score, but I'm in debt. So I kind of felt like at one point I had gotten to a point where it's like, whoa, I think I messed up on here. So I'm here, I messed up here. And then 2 years later, the market crashed. Literally 2.5 years later, in '08, the market just tanked. So this property that I paid $320,000 for tanked to like 230,
Oh
and I'm
wow.
sitting here 90K upside down after I put 30 into it. So I'm into it at 350. I'm down 230. I'm down 120K. I owe $40,000 on a car. I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, so many people were walking away from their properties and just, you know what? I'm not going to pay my mortgage. I know people who stayed in their homes for 2.5, almost 3 years without paying until they finally left.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I couldn't do it. As someone who worked so hard to build up my credit, I just couldn't be that. I just couldn't do that. And I felt, hey, I took that responsibility on. I need to own it, and I need to just pay it off. So, at the time I met my wife, we were living together. She moved in, and it made it easier for us to save money now. So then we had two incomes, no kids, and we just saved, and we just literally threw chunks at the mortgage for like 8 years to dig out. And you know what? In retrospective, it's like someone say, "Oh, financially, you could have walked away," but I didn't, and I still feel good about it because my credit score still to this day is gold. Um, so at that moment, I knew we had, I had made a mistake, and here I was making good money, but being my mother again, giving my check away. So I was going paycheck to paycheck with a good salary. Um, and that was where I learned to just, all right, be smart. How am I going to get out of this? And how am I going to actually not have to work until I'm really old? Um,
It's funny you bring that up because I felt the exact same way because I bought my first house when I was 22 a couple years ago, kind
mhm.
of when the rates were at nothing. And then I got a job. I bought it's similar. I bought a new car. I thought I was the king of the world. And that's
Yep.
how this podcast kind of came to be. I was like, what is my next step? And I was like, I need to do something. So it's funny that you had that feeling too, because I can definitely relate to you. I've had that exact same feeling. So with I've very interesting. You're the first guest we've had that has been upside down on the mortgage. What besides like what was like your when that happened to you? Like you kind of broke it down. Was what was like your thought process of like because you saw a lot of people walking away. You saw that was an option, but obviously, with the type of person that you are with your background, like, nah, I'm going to battle through this adversity. So, for the people out there who may not be 90K in the hole, but they might be in credit card or debt right now, what are some good strategies that you utilize to get yourself out of debt?
Oh man, there's so many things. So first off is you have to track where you're spending your money, right? And this is life changing. This changed my life. I have a spreadsheet to this day. I have a spreadsheet right now that has data on my monthly bills that I can chart out and show you year over year how much I have spent from month to month since 2006. I have almost 20 years worth of data right now, and it requires discipline.
Okay.
So really, my this is something that I learned, and I'll share this. And for folks who are, whether you have a monthly paycheck, a biweekly paycheck, or semi-monthly paycheck, really, here's the key, in my opinion. I create a spreadsheet. On the one column on the left side, I have all my bills. And every column after that is a month. So I have bill 1, 2, 3, 4, January, February, March, April, May, etc. At the end, I put a total column at the end, and it just automatically will total everything as you fill out your bills every month. Now, if you get two paychecks, here's the key. This is the key to help keep your credit really good, because credit is gold. You have to um, take your bills and split them. Paycheck one is group one, paycheck two is group two. Color code. Blue is cycle one, green is paycheck two. And literally, no matter what, whatever you do, whenever you get paid, do yourself a favor and sit down and pay your bills the day you get paid. And like as much as you can. And as those bills are coming in, you're just populating your spreadsheet. You're going to go online and make the payment anyway. Just open up your spreadsheet. What'd you pay? Just put it in. And that's old school. I know there are new apps right now that you can download. My wife has suggested that we should use these, new apps, but there's that for me is like old school, simple, and it forces me to look, register, and type as opposed to just opening up an app that's going to automatically integrate. So that pattern or that process that is very disciplined in my home with this, it's really kind of helped us track where we're spending our money, how we're spending it, and really identifying those expenses that you can really reduce, right? You're going to have your fixed expenses and your variables, right? And find the ones that you can pull the levers on, right? Instead of going out to dinner and partying with your friends, maybe have some friends over and cook a dinner, right? Instead of spending money on nice whatever shoes or watches or things like that, um, put the ego aside and accept that you want to cry now so you can laugh later, right? I
I
think
love I laugh later. I think it's gonna be the title of this episode.
because it really is. I think a lot of people especially when you're young and you know you're becoming independent. You're like, yes, I got my own place. I'm my own person. You don't realize it, but you actually kind of fall into the trap of, okay, now what does that mean? What have I been programmed to behave or do to project this success or be happy or whatever it may be that you're going to spend your money on? And I think one of the biggest things that my kids won't make a mistake like I did is, making sure that, yes, don't worry. You're gonna have, life is pretty long, God willing, right? Everything, hopefully you have a long, healthy life. So remember, you're in seasons, right? And the season in your 20s is about building and grinding and hustling so you can start to actually enjoy in your 30s, right? For me, I started that almost a decade too late, a decade later than I should have, right? So I'm still on track to retire earlier than 75% of the people in the country that are retiring, right? I've caught up and I'm on my way. Um, am I ready to retire now? No, my goal is to make sure that I've got my retirement secure. I've got my kids' college completely done, which that's already secure and in the bag, thank God. Um, and I've got enough to be in retirement where I'm not going to have to take a huge lifestyle hit, right? I like certain things. I enjoy things for fun, and some of them aren't cheap. So I don't want to retire and have to kind of dial back my lifestyle so much. So it's all about saving and investing, right? Like um, I saw this show, Shark Tank. Everybody, I'm sure a lot of your folks watch Shark Tank,
Yeah.
right? And I remember what's the ball guy's name again? Kevin? Is it Kevin?
I think the Kevin's guy from Canada, I know him as like Mr. Nice or whatever. He has like a
Yeah, yeah. So I remember him. I forget who it was, but I remember him kind of making this point. He said, "Listen, I have dollars in my hand that I want to invest. When I take those dollars and I give them to someone, I try not to give too many where they never come back. I give the dollars so that they come back with more troops. It's like a troop. I'm going to send a trooper out, and I'm hoping he's going to come back with more troopers for me, right? So I remember, and like just thinking that, like, unfortunately, a lot of people don't think about the dollars that could come back with the dollars that they're giving out, right?
yes. I think that kind of goes into financial literacy, and I think that's as a retail banker, I see that on a daily basis. You'd be surprised with someone like because I'm 25, and I look at someone's 45. I'm like, wait, you're making that decision? Like you're just the financial literacy in America is astonishing, and I do think if we spend a little bit more time in schools teaching that, or we set up other programs, or maybe in college, I think it would cure a lot of these problems of credit card balances being too high, credit card debt's an all-time high,
Mhm.
student loan debts at an all-time high. People are not moving out of their homes. People are staying with their parents. I think if we made a focus on more financial literacy, I think a lot of those problems would definitely dissipate. So kind of
Absolutely.
going from how you grinded your way out of the that hole and practice good spending. What kind of break us through? What was your first real estate deal besides your single family home that you lived in?
Sure, sure. So it was an interesting one. So at the first, so my first house ended up becoming a rental. What happened was we decided we didn't want to be located on like a main road where there was a lot of traffic. So at that point, my wife and I, we were married, we had kids. We had my one child, my older son at the time, and we were playing in the backyard, and he kind of went around the front, and we got nervous. We're like, holy cow! So we got spooked. So we had this fear, and it was like, all right, that's it. Let's stop with the saving so much. Let's spend some money and go buy a house and go in like a nicer little section. So we came across a deal. It's so interesting, and it's actually the home that I'm in right now. Um, we found a deal. I was not working with a realtor. I was always kind of like the guy that found stuff on my own, and I would always find the seller agent. And this is a trick for folks. If you are resourceful and you know what you're looking for, and you can find the properties on your own, and you don't need to necessarily um, hire a real estate agent. I know realtors are going to hate me for saying this, but find your property and go to the seller's agent and offer them whatever you can. You can play this one of two ways, and this is what I did. I played it the second way that I'm about to describe. But first way is a lot of people say, oh, you can get your realtor's license and you can get some of the commission. So when you buy the house, you get half of the commission. So you don't have to pay it, kind of yada yada yada. Right? Yeah, that works if you want to save some money on commission. But if you really want to close a deal, like if you see a home that you really want to close a deal and you give a fair offer that is equal to or a little better than someone else's, um, and you offer that realtor dual agency, the realtor is gonna not necessarily work harder for you, but because that's not that's it. Like you can't bribe them or anything, but it just naturally it sweetens the deal for the agent, right? And it's a perfectly legal thing to do to offer a realtor dual agency. Um, so what I did was I offered the realtor of this home dual agency, and I said, look, here's my price. I gave him full asking, and full asking, take it as is. Nope, I took the conditions where like I looked at the house. I was like, what, I I was a handy kind of construction kind of guy anyway. I did a lot of work on my old house. I walked through the house. I said, if there's anything wrong with this house, I'll be able to fix it. So I gave them full price, dual representation for the agent. And I said, you know what? An inspection for information only. That's it.
Okay.
So as a seller, I mean, how are you going to say no to that? Number one, right? Because folks, you know, I mean, people like to get homes inspected and stuff. And at the time, I knew I just took a risk. I fell in love with the lot, with the location, cul-de-sac, state land. You know, it was. I would have paid way over price or way over asking if I had to. But the seller took the deal. The realtor was really happy because they got dual commission on the purchase. I was happy because I found this beautiful home. So I bought the home, moved in, turned my single family that I was still upside down on into a rental.
Okay.
So then I had this property that was a dog, right, as a rental. I was still in the hole, literally. I want to say it was. Let me see. So I don't want to say the. Anyway, I was in the house for 8 years. I've been here for. Well, geez, I'm showing my age, but in any event, I ended up with a dog, and I kept it. I said, you know what? Every year or every month that mortgage is getting paid by a renter, it's chewing away and giving me a little bit of equity. So I said, I'll leave that little ankle biter there because that's what it was. It was kind of a little annoying to have, but I didn't want to have to write a $40,000 check to sell the property. So long story short, which I know I'm sorry, I talk a lot, but you know, the long story short, we held on to that property for like another 6 years until it got even, right? So eventually what we owed and what it was worth was even. Great. I said, you know what, babe, let's dump it. Let's just that's a loser deal right there. We're gonna dump it. We don't have to write a check. During the closing process, the septic system failed, and I had to install a brand new septic for $38,000.
My God.
So I had to write a check to close on that house for $38,000 at the end of the day. It was terrible. So that was number one, the deal that I learned the most on. It was the deal that I lost a good chunk of money on, but I learned, holy cow, did I learn a lot of things about real estate on that deal. So the way I look at it is it was a very expensive lesson, but going through it, I came out very, very smart. So got rid of the dog, if you will, the dog of an asset. And then I found another property, my first real rental with a multifamily rental, that I did my little tactic. I found the selling agent. I gave them exactly what they were asking for. No inspection. Inspection for information only. Got my first doors that were cranking me positive cash flow. And it was and that was where that was the power where like all of a sudden I said, whoa, are you telling me now half of my mortgage on my new house is being paid for by this thing? And then it just became like, okay, wait, so if I get another one, my whole mortgage is paid. And then if I get another one, what else can get paid? And then it just became this very addictive and really just exciting, fun process that I've done quite a few times. I've done some flips that have been fun, but yeah, just really good stuff. So I know that was a long answer to your question, but I just wanted to kind of share. My first deal was kind of like an accident, and it was more of a reaction that taught me a lot and showed me the whole process isn't that scary of buying and selling a property. As long as you have a good lawyer that you can work with and you have a great relationship with, which is really important in this whole game, in my opinion, you will have great confidence in getting deals done.
That was a great answer. My following question is what was your strategy going from, you said that you realized, oh, this one rental property paid half of the mortgage of your new house. what was kind of the strategies you implemented to go from the one rental property to, I don't know how many properties you have in your portfolio. You don't have to share that with us, but how did you go from one to two to just
Yep.
let's say four? How did you get that snowball rolling down the hill?
Yep. Great question. So I did it the old school way from the first one to the second one, which is, in retrospective, was a mistake. I should have bird it, but I didn't. So I bought it, and because my wife and I made good money, we just saved. We just kept saving, and we saved enough to invest into the property, renovate it, make it very nice, and then we started saving to buy another one. Do not do that. um, it'll take you too long. And so we went old school. We just pure old school tactics: saving, living below our means, living below our means. But I will say, as a result of that, we have a tremendous amount of equity on those properties, the first couple, because we've just left the equity there. We haven't pulled one equity out of one to buy another, which that is the way, that's definitely a great way to do it. But if you're looking to pay properties off, it becomes a little bit challenging sometimes, right? Because I want free and clear title in hand type of stuff when I'm ready to retire, so that I know I don't have to worry about any sort of debt or anything like that. Now,
Julian,
from
my
the
thought